Hello friends, in the last video session we have discussed about the first JSP program and we have noticed that JSPs are actually much simpler as compared to the servlet, and we have also seen in the introductory session that every JSP can be converted into the servlet. So basically we can say whatever the concepts are there available with the servlets are also available with the JSP. So the concept that we have already seen in the servlet, one of the concept was the session tracking. So the same concept is available with the JSP also, and the topic of the today's video session is also on the session tracking. So before going to the session tracking, let me first talk a little bit more about the session, and we have already discussed about it during the servlet classes, right? So basically what is the session? So we can define the session as a particular time span, or you can say particular time period in which the user is sending some request to the server. So basically here the session can be defined like the session is defined as the series of the related browser requests that come from the same client. Okay, so this is also very important thing, the request should come from the same machine, or you can say same client. Okay, and these requests are nothing but the browser related requests. Okay, so whatever the requests are coming from the particular client during the certain time period. Now this certain time period, the specific period is not mentioned. Okay, so this certain time period means what? It may depend on application to application. For a banking application, the session can be for a few minutes. Okay, and for some other application the session can last for around 30 to 40 minutes also. So it varies application depending on the application that you are building. Okay, so basically why session tracking is needed? So the need of the session tracking is, we already discussed in the servlet also that the JSPs or servlets or HTML files do not have the mechanism of statefulness. Okay, because why? Because they all are working on the HTTP protocol, and we all know that HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol. So by default it do not maintain the state of the request, or you can say it do not maintain the it cannot track the client by default, but some application need that. For example, the e-commerce website like Flipkart or Amazon or Myntra, they basically need the client session information for each client request, right? So whatever you have purchased previously, that can be shown as your favorite list of the items that you may want to buy again, or the kind of choices you have made as like as of interest can be of interest now also. So whenever you log in, you get some pop-ups regarding your previous history or your previous purchases. So how does it happen? It happens only because the particular application is able to track your browsing information. Okay, so but basically HTTP do not have this kind of mechanism, so explicitly programmer has to give it, so using the session management. So this is why there is a need of session management. And how the session is managed? So sessions are we already have discussed this concept in the servlet also, so you must be very clear about these things that I have discussed now. Okay, so basically sessions can be managed using cookies or URL rewriting or hidden form field, or using some session objects also. Okay, so we will discuss each of these things one by one. So first let's discuss about the cookies. So we all know what the cookies are. Okay, as the name cookies, right? So cookies are not the cookies that we buy from the market to eat. Okay, so these cookies are different. So cookies are actually the information that is being stored at the client side by the server. Okay, so cookie is a small piece of information that is being stored at the client side. And why and for what it is used? It is used for multiple client requests. Okay, so let us say a particular client is requesting particular server, and to store the information about the client for multiple requests, server basically stores some information related to that client in the client memory, not in the server side. Okay, so basically cookies reside at the client side, not the server side, and cookies are generated by the server and are stored at the client. So basically cookies are generated on the very first client request. Okay, so this is the flow how the cookies are generated. So this is a client and this is a server. So for the first request, server will identify that okay, this is a first client request. So whatever the information related to this particular client which is of interest to this particular server to track the particular client, what server will do is along with the response, server will add a cookie. Now this cookie is a combination, or you can say is a pair of name and value. So each cookie has a name and a value. Okay, so basically cookie is a name value pair. Okay, so along with the name and value, it also has other attributes like but they are optional. Okay, like comment, path, domain qualifiers, maximum age, version number. Maximum age refers to the age of the cookie till what time it should be there in the client browser. Okay, so based on this we have the two types of cookies as persistent cookies and non-persistent cookies. We are already seen the theory regarding this in the servlet, so I won't discuss it again. Okay, so I will just want to focus on the main concept regarding the cookies, like how they are generated, where they are generated, where they are stored and all. Okay, so basically cookies are stored at the client side by the server. So basically cookies are stored, or you can say cookies are created by the server and are stored at the client side using the response object, HTTP servlet response object. On the other hand, the stored cookies can be retrieved from the client by the server using the HTTP servlet request object. So cookies are read using request object and are written using the response object. So make a note of this, like whenever I want to write a cookie to the client, server uses the response object, and whenever server wants to read the cookie from the client, server uses the request object. Okay, so this should be very clear. Okay, in order to create a cookie, you have to create the object, and you have to call the constructor by passing two parameters. First parameter is cookie name, second parameter is its value. Okay, now we'll see about it in detail very soon. Okay, so this I have discussed in the servlet also, like there are two types of cookies, non-persistent and persistent. Non-persistent, like they are valid for a single session only. So whenever you close the browser, cookies are deleted from the browser. Persistent cookies on the other hand, they persist till you have mentioned the time period using the max age parameter, or you can say max age attribute. Okay, so there are some advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that it is very simple technique for maintaining the state, or you can say for having the session management. Cookies are maintained at the client side. So there is no burden at the server end. So because they are stored at the or maintained at the client end, server don't really have to bother about it. Okay, server will just have to store it at the client side, and you don't have to worry about where they are stored and all. Okay. Disadvantage on the other hand is because they are stored at the client side. What if the client has disabled it in the browser? So the server can't store those cookies in that particular client. So this concept won't work if the cookie is disabled at the browser. Okay, so only textual information you can store using the cookies. Okay, so you can store only the textual information. No images, no videos can be stored related to the particular client. So these are some of the constructors and methods associated with the cookie. So we will be using this particular constructor mostly. So this constructor cookie takes two parameters, name and value. This name is associated with the cookie name, this value is associated with the cookie value. Okay, so what it will do is it will construct a cookie with the specified name and value. Okay, same way there are some of the methods, and mostly we will be using these two particular methods, get name and get value. So get name will return us the name associated with the particular cookie object, and get value will return us the value associated with the particular cookie object. Okay, so these are some of the methods, and other important methods are the add cookie and get cookies. Okay, so add cookie is a method which is used for adding the cookie CK in the particular response. So add cookie is not a method of cookie class, but it is a method of HTTP servlet request class. Okay, sorry, HTTP servlet response class, because we are adding the cookie over the response object. So whenever I want to call this particular method, I have to call it using the response object. So response.addCookie will actually add the cookie object CK. So this is the cookie object that I want to pass. Okay, so you will get more clarity if we discuss the program. So let's go directly to the program. Okay, so in this particular program, what we are trying to do is we have created a simple input form where we are taking the name as the input from the user, and when the user clicks on the go button, the request is transferred to the cookie1.jsp, and this cookie1.jsp basically prints hello world, and then it generates the cookie and stores it at the client side using the response object, as I have discussed. See what is happening here. I think you all know about the basics of the JSPs, and you know this is a scriptlet tag and this is a Java code inside the HTML. So basically what is happening here is we are storing the value of the parameter that we get from the HTML input form. So if I run this particular program, so you will get the more clarity. If I run this particular program, so I will get the input form asking for the name. Okay, so let us say I give the name as Ram and click on the go. So if I click on the go, so what will happen is the request will go to the specified action JSP. Okay, so the specified JSP in the action tag. So what is there in the action? cookie1.jsp. So let's see what is there in the cookie1.jsp. In cookie1.jsp, first hello world is printed, and then I am getting the name that is being given as input by the user. Okay, so the name is Ram. So whatever the user gives the input, it is stored in n, and then this n is set as the cookie. Okay, and the cookie name is name. Okay, so I have created a new cookie C, and I have stored the name of the person which is being given as input in the form, and the cookie is created. Okay, and this particular cookie is added to the client using the response object. Okay, so after all this is done, what I am doing is I am printing that, okay, dear so and so, whatever the name the user has given, cookie is added. So I will display this simple message, and after that I will have another button, click here, which will actually redirect me to the cookie2.jsp. Okay, I hope you are getting now. So in this JSP, so basically in this input form I am getting the input from the user. In this cookie1.jsp I am adding the cookie to the client side using the response object. In cookie2.jsp I am actually reading the cookie that was being added in this particular JSP. So if you can understand, if I click on the go button in this particular first input form, this will be the first request from client to the server. Okay, now after clicking on this particular click here button, this will be the subsequent request. That means it is a second request that is being sent to the server. Okay, so basically in this particular request, along with this particular request, the cookie is also appended. Which cookie? The cookies that have been created. So in this case, by default I am in this case I have added only a single cookie. So what I can add as many cookies as I want, and I can store also. Okay, so here I have added a cookie, and with this particular request, this cookie is also sent to the server. So here in cookie2.jsp, what server is doing is, this is a Java code, if you can notice. So in this I have created a cookie array, and I am reading the cookies that are being stored by this particular server to the requesting client. Okay, so from where the client request is or from where the request is coming from, to that client I must have stored some cookies. So this particular code snippet will read all the cookies and store them in ck array. Ck is an array of cookies, and get cookies is a method of the HTTP servlet request. What it will do is, it will retrieve all the cookies that are being stored, that have been stored by this particular server to the requesting client. Okay, and all the cookies are retrieved and stored in the ck array. Now I don't know basically what is the length of the cookie, or how many cookies I have stored. So here I have written the for loop, and I will iterate till its length. Okay, so I don't know the length basically, so this will retrieve the length of the cookie array. So let us say there are 3 cookies I have stored. In this case I have stored only 1. So whatever the length, it will iterate up to that, and here I am printing cookie name and cookie value using get name and get value methods. Okay, so here I am simply calling it. This is also a Java code, and this is also a Java code. Here I have written the expression tags. Okay, so this concept we already have seen in the last video lecture session. Okay, so I don't have to discuss it again. So this is also a Java curly bracket, so therefore it is written in the scriptlet. This is also a Java code, so it is written in scriptlet. This particular is a HTML. This is again Java, and this is again HTML. Okay, so I think everything is clear. So let's see how the program executes. So first I will close this browser again, and I will run it. So what we'll do is, index.html will actually give me a simple form asking for my name. Okay, so asking for my name. So let us say I am entering Sumit Khatri. Okay, after this I will click on the go button. So as we all know, after clicking on the go button, my request will go to the cookie1.jsp. so cookie1.jsp, what is there? So this should be my output. Hello world should be printed, and then dear Sumit Khatri, comma, the cookie is added. This particular output should be shown to me. Okay, so hello world, and then dear Sumit Khatri, the cookie is added. This should be the output, and then there should be a button called as click here. Okay, so let's see. So I clicked, see, hello world, and then dear Sumit Khatri, comma, the cookie is added. So that means that whatever cookie that we have added is successfully being written at my browser. Okay, so this particular browser is a client. Now again, if I click here, so the request will go to the server again, and in the server where cookie2.jsp. So what is there in the cookie2.jsp? Cookie2.jsp actually retrieves all the cookies that are being stored by this particular server to the client. Okay, and it will print all the name and value attributes. Okay, so let's see after clicking here what will be the output. So you can see this particular cookie is the cookie that is being added by me. Okay, so the cookie name is name and cookie value is Sumit Khatri. But you also might have we also observed here another cookie. This is not added by me. Okay, so J session ID and some cookie value is there. Okay, so this particular cookie is added by my IDE NetBeans to track the session. Okay, so it is not added by me, but it is the by default cookie to track the session. So basically it is used for session tracking management. So inbuilt by cookies, if I want to track the session in NetBeans, it by default adds this particular JSession ID cookie. Okay, so it depends on which IDE you are using. So in my IDE, it creates by default cookie JSession ID with this particular name and value, and I can actually track the client request using this particular value. Okay, so this will be very you can say unique for particular client request. So this particular value I can track this particular client. Okay, so this is all for today's lecture. In the next lecture we will see more on URL rewriting and hidden forms and the session objects. Okay, so this is all for today's video session. Thank you for listening to me. Okay, thank you.